In the last session, we talked about the value of conflict. And I mentioned that the first value of conflict is that conflict engages people at an emotional level of communication. And I gave you the example of how the Lord's parents were quite unhappy when he stayed behind in Jerusalem and how they engaged emotionally in that discussion. I drew to your attention the fact that everybody else was amazed at what the Lord was doing and his level of understanding of the scriptures. When the parents found him in Jerusalem, they were astonished, they were anxious, they expressed their anxiety to the Lord, but everybody else was amazed at how well he knew the scriptures and how well he was handling them. The parents were not preoccupied with how well he was doing in his handling of the scriptures. They were more frustrated by the fact that he had stayed behind without letting them know. We closed the last session by saying that the second value of conflict is that conflict opens a window for past wounds and offenses to be explored. And I'm going to demonstrate this by sharing with you a situation that actually happened. Mr. Kamau is in a boardroom leading a board meeting, and his phone rings. And usually he doesn't pick his phone when it rings, but he looks at it and realizes it's the school that's calling. And so he decides to pick his phone, and the school says, "Sorry, sir, to bother you. You need to come to school and pick up John because he's been suspended for smoking marijuana." Mr. Kamau's response is, "My son cannot smoke marijuana. In any case, there are 3 John Kamaus in that class. Please do your homework before you call me." And he hangs up. A couple of minutes later, the phone rings again. And the school says, "Sorry, sir, to bother you again, but is your son John Gerald Kamau?" The middle name has been used. And Mr. Kamau says, yes, that's my son." "Are you saying that my son was caught smoking marijuana?" "Yes, sir. And you need to come and pick him up from the staff room in the next 1 hour. He's been suspended for smoking marijuana. The teacher caught him red-handed, and you need to be able to pick him up and sort out that behavior, because we all know that smoking marijuana is not acceptable in school." Now, if that was your son, and you're getting this kind of report, what's going on inside you? A little tsunami is beginning to erupt within you, isn't it? Mr. Kamau abandons the board meeting. He tells them he'll be back in half an hour and asks his deputy to continue leading the meeting. He drives to school. He's raving mad. He gets to the school, asks John to come in the car. He almost grabs him. He's just angry. He's speaking to John in harsh tones. And as they drive home, he is talking to him the whole time in harsh tones. He reminds John how he has brought shame to the family by being caught in smoking marijuana. And John is thinking, is it the fact that I was caught or the fact that I smoked? You know, in reality, John never really smoked, but the atmosphere in the car does not allow him to speak. Dad reminds him of his shortcomings from childhood. He reminds him how it was difficult to get him into this prestigious school. He reminds him how much money he's been paying in tuition to keep him in that school. Dad does not remember the truth of Proverbs 17, verse 9. "He who covers and forgives an offense seeks love, but he who repeats or harps on a matter separates even close friends." So Dad is reminding him of his failure as a child. Dad drops him at home in 15 minutes and turns around. He's preoccupied in going back to the board meeting. He speeds off to the meeting. In the meantime, John is growing. You see, John is 16. In 2 years, he'll be considered to be an adult. Dad never once asked him what really happened at school. He concluded that what the teachers had said was right. John was in the wrong, and he just didn't bother to ask him anything. John, of course, is disappointed over the suspension, but he's more disappointed because Daddy did not bother to find out what happened. John feels alone. He feels unloved. He feels unsupported. He feels betrayed. You see, children want a chance to state what happened, no matter how horrible it may be. They want a chance to state what happened and remain loved. John did not get that chance. He does get a chance later to narrate it to his mother. The mother does empathize with him, but John can't get over the fact that Daddy was not interested in hearing what really happened. Mr. Kamau comes back home at 9 p.m. and finds John watching television. Dad explodes. I can't believe you're watching television. You smoke marijuana, you shame the entire family, you shame me in front of the school, and you come home and sit back and watch this nonsense on television. But Dad has no idea how Johnny really spent his time. You see, Daddy dropped John home at 3 p.m. John made a phone call to his friends who are just leaving school. At 3:30, John picked homework from his friends who had come back from school. Between 4:30 and 8 p.m., John was working on his homework. At 8 p.m., he had dinner with his mom, and they talked through what happened in school. After dinner, he's watching news on the BBC at 9 p.m. when you come in. BBC, the very channel that Daddy watches. And without even thinking about it, Dad is lashing out at Johnny. Johnny explodes. The tsunami has finally reached the shore. Daddy, you never give me a chance to explain anything that's going on in my life. Last week, you accused me of scratching the car without even finding out what really happened. Today, you shamed me in front of my teachers, in front of my friends, by shouting at me and calling me names when you came to pick me. You never once asked me what happened. You still don't know, Dad, what happened in school. Even now, you come home at 9 p.m. You are tired. You are preoccupied with your own issues. We never get a chance to talk. You assume I've been watching TV from the time you brought me home, Dad. Even now, you don't know how I spent my time today. You dropped me home at 3 o'clock and you assumed I've been watching TV the whole evening. You get home late. We have no time to relate to you. You always come home tired and busy, and you're exploding at all of us, Dad. It's okay, Dad, it's okay. And as he says that, a tear is coming down his face. It's okay. In 2 years, I'll be out of here. And you can have your peace. He turns off the television and goes to his room. Dad is angry. Dad assumes that John is going to his room to start surfing the internet. So Dad goes and turns off the internet, the Wi-Fi from the wall. Dad was completely unprepared for the tsunami. It came completely unexpectedly and he was completely stunned. Dad forgets the truth of Proverbs 17 and verse 6. Proverbs 17:6 says, the glory of sons is their fathers. The word glory means magnificence or splendor. Children, and especially sons, are looking up to their dads. But this particular dad has been nothing but shame to his son. Number 3, conflict allows family members to grow in their capacity to love. And I'm going to be tying the loose ends between point 2 and point 3 in just a moment. I know I've left the Johnny story hanging. I'm going to conclude that story.